Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another key election update video here today. We've got big stuff regarding Trump's 2024 agenda. There's been like 20 bullet points listed. I'm going to go through those. We've also got more leaks coming out with Biden. It's clear. I mean, the infighting is just continuing. There's no good choice. And so I'll actually break this down really quickly with Biden and Harris. It's so bad either way, whether it is Kamala or Biden, that I feel like they're split down the middle, or it's 60-40, or it's, 65-35. Neither of them are good options. It would be one thing if you had the VP, like a legitimate young gun dude, hotshot, likable. I think they would have already switched to him, whoever that would be. But obviously they go with Kamala, DEI, admittedly by MSNBC. And so some people want to switch. They're still Biden loyalists. I don't think either of them are going to win. They're very, very similar to me. And I don't think it's surprising that you're seeing this ridiculous infighting because there is no obvious candidate. Now, if I was a Democrat, I probably would switch. I'd probably say, you got to go. I think Harris is bad. Harris is probably worse, but it's like Biden is so far gone. And you listen to these independent people, they're like, we just can't vote. Like just normal everyday people who would normally be like, well, Trump's rhetoric, it's really bad. But now they're like, in good conscience, there's just nothing there with Biden. We just can't do it. It's such a horse and bunny clown show. Biden can't talk. Everybody knows he's not going to last 4 more years. The disingenuous nature of some of these liberals sitting, you've got Whoopi Goldberg saying, well, he can't formulate a sentence, but show me that he can't do the job. Oh my God, if you can't formulate a sentence, do you want to be a president? That is the job. You have to be able to talk. I mean, what are we doing? So, I mean, I would cut the losses and say, go with Harris. I would try and get like Josh Shapiro or someone to be the VP because you need to balance it. If you go with Whitmer, it's 2 women. There's no way that's going to get elected. I'm sorry. And also women are already going to be pissed, with Kamala being the first female president. It's not deserved. She shouldn't have even been the VP. But that's just my take on all of that. Right now, it's like 50-50 because neither of them are good choices. And so there's this infighting. If I was a political strategist for the Democrats, I'd probably say cut the losses. I mean, try and get like Michelle Obama to do it, honestly. But if she's not going to do it, I guess go with Harris and see what you can do there. Just because Biden at this point, there's no changing the script with him. He's not going to age backwards. He's not going to get, I mean, I guess you could make the argument, well, if he has a better debate, maybe. But you can see, I mean, all these leaks are coming in, and these are coming from Democrats. They want this out there. They want the pressure on Biden to drop out. You can see Biden had to go to bed. This was back in 2022. The Germans had to schedule an event in the early evening because apparently Biden had to sleep, and it was like, I guess, a confidential meeting with Ukraine, very important in 2022. Remember, the invasion, Russia invading Ukraine happened, what was it, February 2022, early that year. So these are big meetings that they have to schedule around Biden's sleepy time. He's got, the crib in the White House. They installed that for him. He takes naps during the day. And so that's just how ridiculous it is. Now we've got Parkinson's expert, I think this was on NBC News Now, saying that Biden clearly has Parkinson's. And he compares the cover-up to the Soviets, so they're all starting to lash out. This dude, I think, it's coming from a lifelong Democrat. Yeah, he was pretty good in his explanation, I'll be honest. You've got Jon Stewart. This dude is such a clown. Oh, my God. Jon Stewart said he was trying to make the argument, and of course all these people just have no standing on anything. He's completely turned on Biden, and the reason he's turned on Biden doesn't have to do with anything other than the fact that they're going to lose, and they're like little children throwing feces at the wall, like, oh, we're going to lose to the big bad evil Donald Trump. We have to change everything. Because they can't admit it, they have to go skirt around things to try and get someone like Harris or whoever else to try and beat Trump. They're the ones that chose Biden. You made your bed, go lay in it. But no, they can't do that. They're children. It always has to be their way. And if it's not their way, go out and riot. I mean, even in France, if you ask those people, the socialists and the communists, even if you win, go out and riot. And this idiot just goes on a rant about how, the UK had those emergency elections because he's talking about there being 4 months in between now and the election, and some liberals saying that's not enough time to change out Biden. Obviously, he wants to change Biden out. And he says, oh, the France just stopped fascism. That's what he said. So he said that election where I guess his people, the liberals, right, they won. They stopped fascism. And what did that result in? It resulted in it looked like a total Palestine takeover. They were graffitiing everything. None of those people care about French history. They all think it's racist. It's disgusting. These are his people that do that. And it's just all these people just disgusting. That's the word I would describe. Like, they win, their party wins, and that's the result. And I think a lot of Americans are starting to wake up to this whole thing where it's like, oh my God, all the illegal immigrants are coming in. Some of them are becoming legal. Some of them are voting illegally. That's why they admitted that they didn't back the SAVE Act, which would have, really fortified the elections, made voter ID mandatory. Liberals didn't back it. It was smart. I talked about it yesterday. And you're seeing Americans look at the French, look at UK and be like, oh, we're finally starting to realize there's an incentive to importing immigrants because immigrants will vote Democrat, and they're doing it. And this is how disgusting it is. They do the fear mongering and the guilt tripping against conservatives. Like, we're the horrible people for not wanting a bunch of illegal immigrants or just immigrants in general into this country when the only reason they're doing it is to profit off of more votes. They want to create more voters. They want to get a bigger overall popular vote lead on conservatives. And obviously right now, Republicans are going to probably be winning this election, or it's looking that way. So they have to import more. And they spin it like, oh, you're just anti-human if you don't let all these people into your country. The only reason they're doing it is because they can get more voters. That's why they're doing it. And also the other thing, and we're going to go through this, the numbers on these people, the amount of money these illegals are getting versus what actual Americans are getting in terms of payments, it's ridiculous. So not only is it totally selfish to put these people into the country in terms of you're just doing it to try and gain a voter block, but it's also disenfranchising Americans. But they probably like that. They probably like that it's disenfranchising Americans. So just notice they disenfranchise their own citizens to try and gain even more of a political advantage. The people in this country should not reward that. You should not vote with them. And then this idiot just says, oh my God, they stopped fascism. Yeah, you know what they did? Why don't you go look at their celebration where they burn everything down? They're all covering their faces. That's what France is. I mean, those people that, were born in France have to be looking at that and being like, oh my God, it's a literal invasion that we voted for. We voted for it. We endorsed it. That's their celebration. They go up, they completely disrespect the French flag. They write all over it. They burn it. And here in America, 4th of July, you got all these, people burning the American flag in New York City. They're waving up the Palestine flag, the people that just committed terrorist acts back in October. But no, that's fine. They're good. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And then Jon Stewart, that was just so annoying to see this. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Tucker Carlson interview. American citizens get $1,400 per month on Social Security if they're lucky. We hand every asylum seeker, illegal migrant pouring into the country, $2,200. That's $800 more. Think of all the money Trump is going to save. He's already come out like 5 or 6 months ago and said it's the biggest deportation. We've got to deport 10 million people. We've got to completely stop all immigration. He hasn't said that yet. But this is what Trump said back in 2016. He said, we have to stop immigration until we figure out what the hell is going on. And so now it's 10 times worse than it was in 2016. Say what you want about Obama, but there weren't anywhere close to this number of illegals pouring in. And it is a total mess. And I was listening to these people like they interview people. It's like, they're liberals interviewing people talking about immigration and saying, well, Trump blocked the bill that would have, helped aided Biden in terms of immigration. Think about how disgusting this is. For 3 years, they let illegals pour in, unchecked. We don't even know where most of these people are at because it's the bullshit catch and release where, oh, you're going to get a court date 7 months from now. Go be free in the United States. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a great policy. So 3 years of that. And now they realize they're about to lose because everyday American citizens, really any race. I mean, a lot of black people hate this stuff. That's why Trump's got like 40% support among black men. They're sitting there saying, this is totally absurd. What are we doing? That's why Biden's approval rating on immigration is so historic. It's minus 40 on immigration, or maybe it's minus 30. But on the economy, it's like minus 22. So Biden's approval is horrible. And so what do they do now? This is how disgusting it is. They're so obsessed with power for 3 straight years. Number one, the first day in office, they said Trump was a racist. His policy was disgusting. Biden said in primary debates during the Democratic primaries that we're going to let everyone in. Trump is just disgusting. The border policy is way too strict. What they're doing, the kids in cages, even though Obama had that in 2014, there's video of it that Fox News released, and everybody knows it now. The idea that you would still use kids in cages, it's come total mainstream that it was an Obama thing. Trump continued the policy, and so that's what was really happening there. But 3 straight years, let me get to my point. I'm sorry. 3 straight years, you get all these people flowing over, you get their entire rhetoric, how Trump was horrible, he was too strict, and then they realize Biden has the worst approval rating in history, and they suddenly say, now we want to play ball with conservatives and we want to tighten the border up. And the only reason they're doing it, see, this is, please do not fall for this, please. They're just trying to get reelected, and then they'll go right back to their old shit, where they let everyone in. It's the same thing with even something like where they're giving kids the money, the student debt relief. They're just doing it right now. They're ramping it up. And I saw a Biden tweet where he's like, we want to give out student debt relief. It's so important. That already got shot down by the Supreme Court. They said, no, you can't buy votes. And they circumvented it. And now a judge shot it down and delayed it. And they're still trying to get by it to get the student debt relief to many of these kids who are low propensity voters. They're trying to buy votes. They're basically saying to kids who are like trendy 22, 23, they've got $60,000 in student debt. Here's a little check in the mail, and they don't eliminate the total student debt, but they'll eliminate $10,000 to $20,000. And it says on it, and this should be illegal, but this is what it says: Biden-Harris, we've eliminated $20,000 of your student debt. You know, it's 5 months before the election. Maybe consider. They don't say that, but that's really what it is, because they wouldn't be doing this in 2023, 2022. I never saw any of those envelopes in 2023 or 2022 possibly giving kids the student debt. But here it is in 2024, plastered everywhere, Biden-Harris. And now you've got, this situation. People are starting to wake up to it. It's pretty crazy. From what I can tell today, Trump disavowing Project 2025 gave MSNBC, CNN a piece of red meat. Really stupid suggestion by whoever did so. Yeah, well, I didn't really understand this tweet. Listen, there was such a liberal talking point about Project 2025. The mods on Reddit had to start saying, please stop talking about Project 2025 seriously. Now, Project 2025, whether Trump wants to admit it or not, obviously he knows about it. I'm guessing his advisors and this lady, what she doesn't understand, they were going to talk about Project 2025 whether Trump said anything or not. It was already, that's why Trump had to disavow it. He wouldn't have talked if they didn't talk about Project 2025 and they kind of scooted it under the rug because they were so focused on Biden. Trump wouldn't have said anything. Trump, only after being told by his advisors, came out and disavowed it. Project 2025, with something that large, I know people are saying, well, you don't tell them your plan, you just enact it, but it's such a large, wide-scale plan, and really that Project 2025 goes back to many Republicans wising up and realizing how rigged a lot of these systems are against the right, whether you look at the prosecutors, you look at Washington, D.C., for example. That's where all of our national politics are, and they get 3 electoral votes, the District of Columbia. It's 95% liberal. And normally the politics are a reflection of this, the city and what the city, it's 95% liberal. All those federal workers, they're 90% liberal. They're not bipartisan like everyone says. So the Project 2025 was a realization that you need to change things and change them quickly. It's the exact same thing. It's a total misrepresentation of our colleges. You look at the colleges, the campuses, everyone says, oh, why are all young people liberal? Well, it's because when you look at the professors, right now in this country, you can argue the exact demographics, but let's just say it's 40, 40, 20, 40% Democrat, 40% Republican, 20% independent. And you look at the college campuses, and don't you think that should probably be the reflection of the professors? It's not at all. They've done studies. It's 97, 98% liberal professors. Oh, I'm shocked all the kids are liberal now. I'm told college campuses are total cesspools. There's no Republican influence there at all. That's why many of the young people, although I will say I've seen things that have come out now, like 18 to 29 is actually turning more conservative, which is pretty remarkable considering the influence colleges have, and pretty much, especially all the women, they have to go to college. They all do it. You know, if you're a young female, you don't go to college. That's like the rarest thing in history, at least in the United States. With men, it's a little bit different, or young boys, whatever you want to say, when they're like 16, 17, possibly deciding. Some of them don't go to college. They just go into the workforce. But the Project 2025, the only reason he disavowed it was because they were talking about it so much. It's not like he just came out of the blue and said, no, I disavow it. This was all strategically done. He wouldn't have said anything about Project 2025 if they didn't make this huge topic. His advisor said, look, they're infighting. They're stuck between Kamala and Biden. They're going to try and turn this on you. Just disavow it, because there are some things about Project 2025 that they would concern a lot of people when it comes to the executive powers being expanded. So you need to come out and disavow that right now, at least. And that's what they probably told him. You also do have, let me see if I can find something good. Trump's RNC platform doesn't call for a national abortion. Yeah, so to me, I'm surprised people are even still talking about this. Trump has the most centrist view on abortion possible. It's up to the states, especially considering he's the figurehead right now, the leader of the Republican Party. For him to say that is crazy. And again, Trump, just like the Project 2025, he's in it to win this year. He wants to win, wants to win, wants to win. He's listening to his advisors. That's why he's shut up for the last 2 weeks and let this liberal crap play out where they're literally eating themselves. They are literally eating themselves. I have not seen this before in recent memory, where CNN is against the president, who's a liberal, going into re-election 4 months away. It is crazy. That's why Trump has been told to shut up. Don't go out. Don't do anything. Just let this play out. It is great publicity for you. Just don't do anything. And we've seen in the polling numbers, it's helped significantly. Trump's at like a 60-70% chance. You look at some of the metrics, like 75-80% chance to win. And so Trump, of course, there's going to be no abortion plan. Even in Project 2025, there's no abortion ban in that either. So this is good. And again, it shouldn't surprise anyone that Trump would not come out and do this. It'd be terrible in terms of politics. And then people say, see, this is a double-edged sword. They say Trump should stand for something. It's disgusting that he's bending over backwards, for the left and for independence. It's not for the left, though. It is for independence. And you can get in and you can create major change. The problem is you have to get in first. And if you come out and you say you want an abortion ban, that's a big issue. That's the left's only thing that they have right now. That's why it was so crazy that Biden struggled so much in that debate talking about abortion. Well, I guess you know what? It's not crazy. I said Biden would suck. He can barely talk. He probably has Parkinson's. That's just the reality of the situation. And the funny thing is, like, half liberals will agree with me. That's how bad it is. Their party is literally split. So it's a mess right now with them, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I like the Project 2025 guys, and they have many good ideas, but they should have never spoken about any of it publicly, especially if they expect to. Yeah, well, the problem with it, it's such a massive project. You have to talk about it publicly. It's not like you can just enact it secretly after Trump wins. I know what they're saying with the liberals and how they don't say what they're actually going to do. I get that. My only thing is they probably shouldn't have talked about expanding executive power to the point, because it is a tough read when you talk about that, because people are going to be like, well, it's against democracy, things like that. Well, you have to radically change it because it's so rigged against conservatives. That's really what they're saying. But no, I do agree. I say keep it as quiet as possible. You don't tell them that. You just enact it. But it's such a big project. You have to kind of say what you're planning on doing. Trump has distanced himself from it. He's got his agenda for it, and now Trump's got his stuff here. Party affiliation poll. I would expect it to be over 50% Republican, but these things take time. It's just like France. It is shifting more to the right, but it's going to take time because now they're starting to realize, oh, they are trying to import immigrants to gain voters. Let's maybe not let this happen and let our culture change indefinitely. So I do think this is going to continue to go up. And then you've got this, only two options for the GOP moving forward: get on board with mass deportations or cease to exist as a party. Well, Trump's already come out and admitted he's doing the deportations. I covered that 5 or 6 months ago. It was a huge plan. It was a big deal. And he said it again in this updated, bullet point agenda that he's put out. So I think it's going to be 10 to 20 million people deported. And we also need to stop immigration to figure out what's going on. stop the immigration, start the deportation, and then we'll bring the immigration back with a stricter level to where, almost like Japan. Now see, this is another thing that's interesting. You can either, because the birth rates in a lot of these countries are going down, you can say, well, it's feminism, whatever. I think it's just instant gratification, unfortunately. When it comes to having a kid, it is a lot of sacrifice early on, the first 5 or 6 years. It all pays off, of course. Everyone says it does. Outside of me, like 1%, but it is a very rewarding thing to have a child and create a family. But it's such an instant gratification. A lot of women now, with not only with the feminism, but just in general, with how easy our lives are through technology, they don't want to go through the months, the childbearing months, where it's 9 months. It's going to be very hard for them. And then even after that, they have to lose weight. It's all about instant gratification now. That's why they don't look forward and say, oh, in 18 years, I'm going to, love doing this and love that I have a kid and who's grown up and it's going to be amazing. So the birth rates are going down because it's easier to live. That's my point. And it's happening in Japan. And so there's these two options. In the United States, we've got aggressive immigration. So the birth rates for Americans, the citizens, are going down, and we're replacing the population. That's why our population is not decreasing. We're replacing it with immigrants. You have Japan, who's doing the opposite. Their population is going down, but they have very strict immigration. And so it's this double-edged sword. Now, what is one of the most important things? Well, you have to incentivize people having children, American citizens having children. That's the most important thing, I would say, to try and stop something like that, rather than just say, well, because the citizens are not producing the proper number, we have to import a bunch of people. That makes the situation 10 times worse. Look at what happened in France. They're literally acting like they invaded a country because they won an election. They were rioting because they were losing a poll against the right, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. France is a great example, and that's unbelievable propaganda if you are a Republican to use. Look, they won, and it looks like they've taken over the country. Literally, it looks like they've taken over the country. And that is a democracy win for the left there and for the socialists. So it just goes to show you Trump's on board with all of this. Who would you prefer to be the Democratic nominee, Biden or Harris? I mean, listen, neither of them are good choices. It's impossible to say. They're both going to lose. They've screwed themselves with their identity politics. They had to put a white female in, a minority female, that is. And I was talking about that video with the black dude talking to Biden before he made his choice. He's like, you better elect a minority female. I mean, these people are crazy. It doesn't matter if you're qualified, whatever. None of that matters. You just have to elect a certain race, especially Biden in the year 2020. Oh my God, heaven forbid, the Democratic Party, it's an old white dude. Oh my God, it's such a travesty. So they had to go with Harris, and Harris is completely unqualified. She's totally hated. She has one of the lowest approval ratings of any vice president in history, and she's probably the most disliked vice president in history that we can remember. So obviously this is why it's like this infighting 47-32 with a lot of people not voting or undecided, because neither of them are good choices. There's not a clear choice for them. Here is Trump's RNC, the convention platform, short and sweet. A lot of this is fluff. Seal the border, stop the invasion, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history, end inflation, make America dominant in energy, stop outsourcing, and turn to the U.S. and manufacture for a manufacturer. Well, yes, you need to incentivize that, though. That's the problem, because it's cheaper in other countries. Large tax cuts for workers. Yeah, no, that's a thing that Trump needs to talk about. Trump's tax cuts, that the Jobs and Tax Cuts Act back in 2017 is expiring in 2025. The Democrats have confirmed they will be raising taxes on everyone. This is the thing with Democrats that they always talk about. It's the same shit every single year with taxes. We just want to raise the taxes of the really rich people. Originally they were saying, I think it was like, only if you make over 400K. I believe they've changed that now to where if you make over 100K, which in that sense, a lot of us are going to be affected significantly when it comes to taxes. Their taxes are so out of control. It's a 54% tax rate when you factor in the state tax in California, and it's the same thing in New York. It's ridiculous. How are you getting taxed? you're getting taxed 54%, you're taking home 46. What are we doing? If you make over 100K, so that's what they always say. They say, well, if you make over, if you make under 100K or under 400K, you're not going to get taxed. Well, no, it raises the tax on everyone. They plan on doing that when Trump's initial act expires in 2025. They need to use that against Biden in terms of the taxes. Defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. A lot of this is fluff. Prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe. Well, yeah, you need to talk about how Trump has a good relationship with Russia. He can stop this. He had such a good relationship, they got so triggered that we were at peacetime that they called Trump a Russian agent because his relationship with Russia was so good. Trump's against China. The liberals don't really mind China. It's a different thing. It's like Republicans like Russia, liberals hate Russia, liberals like China, Republicans hate China. And whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, China is a significantly bigger threat, even with their economy struggles recently, than Russia. They've got a much more robust, growing military. Their military is far bigger than Russia's. And Russia, they're the ones that leak all this shit about supersonic missiles, about having the biggest nuclear warheads. Americans are dumb enough to believe it and think, oh my God, Russia's the number one threat. When you get to a certain point, having the most nukes is totally meaningless. I would challenge that Russia really has the most sophisticated nukes. When you look at their other technology, they've got like Cold War level military weapons, but they've got the most nukes, really? They've got the most sophisticated nukes, I should say. They probably do have the most nukes, but again, at a certain point, it's like whether you're 400 pounds or 700 pounds, you're still obese. It doesn't really matter. The nukes, it doesn't matter. It's just used, and a lot of it is leaked by Russia to try and make them seem more powerful than they are, when really China is the number one biggest threat to the United States. They've said it. They've got their 2049 plan or whatever it is to try and pass the United States in terms of being having the number one GDP with all the economy, things like that. They've got the two biggest solar panel farms in the world, and I think they're building another one with Australia. There's something. This is a big threat, and that's why Republicans are right with China being the number one threat, not Russia. I understand Russia, they're the ones that invaded. It's really bad, I get it, but we have to try and negotiate some type of peace before the China-Taiwan situation happens. You don't want that to happen during the Russia-Ukraine war. And again, it does look like Putin is willing to negotiate, and I would imagine as long as Putin has this dialogue where he's like, if you bring Trump in, we'll negotiate. It seems like Putin might only want those two eastern Russian-speaking Ukrainian territories that they've had control over for basically since the beginning of the war. They've taken other places. They've lost it. A lot of that's due to the NATO support with all the military technology that NATO has. They've shipped it all to Ukraine. We know about the billions of dollars that come from the United States. And you know what? Almost what I would say if I was Trump is maybe for a lot of these European countries, because I'm getting sick and tired of these countries being socialist, I would say, listen, if you want the United States to continue to be a part of NATO because our military is so strong, because in terms of the NATO budget we contribute 70%, you need to pay a tax to us for us to be in NATO. That's what I would tell these countries, because we're so much more powerful than they are. And if they say, no, we're not doing that, that's perfectly fine. We'll just start a military alliance with Russia. No, Europe, that's fine. You're all socialists. That's perfectly fine. You don't want to pay a tax to us for us to be in NATO. We will go ahead and start a military alliance with China and Russia. That makes sense. The superpowers can unite, and they would be forced to pay us a tax, and we could use that money for, honestly, securing the border, doing some other things. But that's just because the United States is so much more powerful than all these other NATO countries. You wonder, well, how is that even a thing? To where you make this military agreement and the United States contributes in terms of the budget, because our GDP is so big, 70% of it. It's because the thing was made after World War II. It's a ridiculously old alliance. It was only supposed to last 10 years to make sure the Soviet Union didn't do anything. They make the Warsaw Pact. It's already completely gone, but NATO's still there. The United States is getting screwed on NATO. Trump even said it, and they made him this horrible person. That was all European propaganda. All Trump said about NATO was he started to make a stink and say, we might leave because a lot of these European countries are not even paying the 2% that they said they would, and a lot of them still are not. And they want all this protection from the United States, and they want Ukraine into NATO, which is possibly going to kickstart World War III. NATO is starting to become a big problem for the United States, and a lot of people are realizing it. Because there is that European propaganda influence, obviously anytime you say anything bad about NATO, I mean, Europe is like, oh my God, because they need the United States. If they don't have the United States and it's just the European Union, with Brexit now without the UK, although, I mean, I think they probably have to start that, they need a united Europe, especially if the United States is not in an agreement. I'm not saying NATO is this horrible thing. The United States, because of what's happened since the early 1950s and the military budgets, ours growing exponentially, all the other countries in Europe really not. The obligation is so much one-sided with the United States having to fund everything. It's a big issue. So I would almost say, listen, we can stay in NATO. We need some type of tax from every country that's going to be in it, because we're sick and tired of doing this. We're getting blamed for every war. Everything's America's fault. And why wouldn't you? If you are another country that opposes NATO and there's some type of war, and that country, for this example, Ukraine, they're getting money from NATO, you blame the United States. The United States is 70% of NATO's military budget. So, of course, the United States is always going to be the figurehead. No matter where the war is, it's always our obligation to fund it because of how big our military is, and we get nothing for that. We just get thrown in all these wars in Europe. Obviously, the Middle East, you got to get out of it. Just stop with the Middle East. I know Israel, Palestine. Just stop, please. But, of course, that's a whole nother topic where there's a lot of Americans that have very strong opinions on that. Stop the migrant crime epidemic. I mean, this is all, fluff stuff. It's like you announce this at the convention. You try and get people to feel good. It's really not detailed plans. It's just all one-liners. Keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. Fight for protection, Social Security. That's the thing. They said Trump was trying to take away Social Security, and it's in here right there. Fight and protect Social Security. Cut federal funding. This is probably the big one. Cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on the children. And I think that's got widespread support. That's got like 70% support. How about this? This is the best one. Keep men out of women's sports. Oh my God. Trump is so horrible for that. Dude, Trump's such a disgusting. Oh my God. Keep men out of women's sports. Are you crazy? Of course, I'm being sarcastic, and I know it's not happening a lot, but it's just, I mean, there's got to be some common sense with people here. Wow, this is the best GOP platform. I mean, I think this is the exact same thing, right? Yeah, this is the exact same thing I was talking about. It's the 20 bullet points. Biden is now deporting more people than Trump. So, all right, Republicans saw this, and I don't think this has much. Look at the ratio on this. 871 replies. I contributed to the likes, so I am a Democrat. I like this tweet, but now Biden is now deporting more people than Trump. I want to talk about the actual tweet, but first I'll talk about the community notes. Obviously, it's not true at all, but even if it was true, they're telling on themselves. These are the people that think deporting illegals is racist. They ran on that. That's why Trump was the big bad racist, because he was going to deport illegals. And they're literally trying to say, because they look at the American people, their view of immigration, the fact that they want all these people deported, now they've done a complete 180, because 3 years ago it was racist to deport people. Now Biden, they're trying to say that and brag about it, that Biden is deporting more people than Trump. It's not true, but the bigger point is they're the ones saying that that's racist, but because they're about to lose the White House, they have to try and manipulate it and say, oh, but now Biden's deporting more than Trump. You just said it was racist 3 years ago. What are you talking about? See, that's the thing with these people. It's all about trying to remain in power. They'll twist themselves into a pretzel. They really don't believe anything. They just want to remain in power. That is the whole point. Immigrants are more likely than native-born Americans to support more immigration. Well, yes, that's exactly right. It's the compound effect. With all the immigrants, the more you let in, they're going to support immigration, so it just gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And they say, well, that's what's happening in France. Well, with France, it seems like there's going to be a big pushback against it. That's why the Conservative Party went from 17% to 37%. I'm guessing it'll be 57% during the next election, because people that were born there are like, what are we doing here? You're making it easier for people that are unvetted, unchecked, possibly, in poverty. There's nothing against poor people. I'm just saying there's a high propensity that they're going to commit crimes against the native people. And it's all incentivized. That's their whole structure. They want to let them in. And then they say, well, you're anti-human if you don't let these people in. No, we have a first world country. You have to have a legitimate border. This is ridiculous. And now the Democrats are forced to agree with that because of how bad Biden is in immigration. But yes, it's a compound effect. There it is right here. This is a compound effect. The immigrants come in, they push. They want more immigration, so it's a compound. And you've got the left who also wants more immigration, because not because they love, humans, they want everyone to have a chance. No, they want votes. That's why. I'm just telling you what it is. Like all this stuff, this charade, they care so much about people. I'm sick and tired of hearing Democrats whining about Biden's age. The man knows how to govern. Just shut up and vote. It's time to stop fucking around. If the convicted felon wins, we lose our democracy. Joe Biden. Yeah, so he's now calling for Biden to step down. And I think a lot of these people have been paid to say this, or they've gotten a call from someone like, you need to come out against Biden. It's very interesting to see the dynamics right now of the left. My administration has proposed to cancel student debt. Yeah, so there it is. The tweet 21 hours ago by their administration talking about canceling student debt, trying just like cheese, waving cheese over a trap with the little 22-year-old kids who have like $50,000 in student debt. But none of the kids can really put it together. Why would Biden be saying this during an election year? Well, he just wants to buy your vote, and he thinks you're dumb. But a lot of them don't. A lot of them, Biden is right. They're all dumb, but they're so dumb they don't realize it. So Biden is right here. That is a good strategy by the left. I'm not going to lie. But I think I've talked about enough of this stuff. Yeah, there's some other stuff with immigration. Okay, there's some things right there. A.G. Garland knew that the Her tapes would reveal Biden's mental decline. He must be held accountable. Well, I mean, listen, I've thought of this. If they really want Biden out, wouldn't they just release the Her tapes? Or like leak them to a Republican and have him release them? Like you think it'd be very easy to do that. If you are the right and you have, I mean, listen, you've got to get the Her tape. If Biden is actually running, whether it's a legal means or legal, you need to get the Her tapes. You need to wait until early October. You need to drop them, and there's no way Trump loses. That's what I would do when it comes to the Her tapes. If I'm the Democrats, I would just literally leak them to a Republican, have him leak them, and then Biden's out of the race. Because if they literally said, Robert Hur literally said that, I can't charge Biden with anything because he's so declined. It's almost like an old dude at an old folks home putting handcuffs on him. It feels wrong. That's what he said. He said he didn't remember when he was vice president. Obviously, that was 2008 to 2016. It wasn't like it happened 30 years ago. It was so bad he couldn't charge him because he felt bad because Biden was so old and couldn't remember anything. He admitted that while he was talking to Biden. So the tapes, and obviously the way Biden talks, it's got to be really, really bad. And then I will end on this. This is probably the funniest thing ever. I don't know what New York City was doing, but they bring out this trash can. You've got the mayor dumping, a bag of trash into the trash can, and then he says, "Welcome to our trash revolution." And it's so hilarious how he's got the trash can, and you can see like a little area that's marked out, like this is where you put it. There's an outline right there where you put it. I mean, look at this. He puts it right there, right on the outline. And then look at the technology. Open it up. Put it in there, and then he says, "Welcome to our trash revolution." And then people in the comments were like, "This is huge technology." But that's just a little funny thing either. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.